Hi, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk the Winchesters, episode 10. And this one is called Suspicious Minds. With me, of course, is Carla from Carla Astrology. And yeah, let's get into this episode. There wasn't a whole lot that was happening, so this might be a quick one. So we're going to start off with a flashback to the year 1957, a dark road in Kansas, and there was a woman named Dorothea who stopped to help someone with car trouble, another woman who turns out to be one of the Akrita people, and she attacked her and knocked her out, and that was that. Then we switch to our timeline again. And Millie has just installed an alarm system from the clubhouse that leads to Mary's house. So when they're at Mary's house, they get an alarm if something happens in the clubhouse while they're not there. And then Mary gets a letter from the Kansas University, and it's an acceptance letter. So she applied for college and she wants to, pursue her normal life. And so she's putting the pieces into place for whatever happens after killing the Akrita. So she's planning her life. And then we hear from Dean. Hunting and happy endings don't usually mix. So when you get your chance, you got to ask yourself, how far will I go to get it? And in that moment, the alarm actually gets triggered. And so Mary and John go to the clubhouse and check it out. Meanwhile, Lata and Carlos, they follow the trail that Samuel left them, checking out the locations from the pictures to try and find where the Akrita queen is hiding. And so they have a little bit of a conversation while they were doing that. And turns out Carlos is really, he's falling in love with Anton. And as a hunter, of course, and now my cat is making noise. I'm sorry if I can hear that. So as a hunter, happy relationships is probably what scares them the most because they are always confronted with their own mortality.
Yep.
And yeah, planning for something long-term is usually not what they do. So even Carlos is more like, yeah, it's all fun and games in the beginning, but when it gets serious, no, break it off. And so he's thinking of doing that the same way and trying to forget him. And that whole talk then sparks an idea in Lata because she wants to try and find someone who actually remembers the Akrita by having been possessed, so that they can tap into that memory so that they can find out where the queen is, because those pictures that were overexposed don't really tell them anything.
Right.
And so the person that she was thinking of is Roxy. I think that was her name, right? So Roxy from the radio station that we originally thought was the queen. And they find her in a motel room, and she's in a very bad shape. And so they tell her that they can help her forget, but in order to do that, she first has to remember so that they can get the information they need, and then they can also help her. At the clubhouse, Mary and John find the intruder, and it is a man named Porter J. Hobbs, and he says he is men of letters. His identification number is 22-8, and he has a key to the clubhouse and a very nice British accent. And I'm sure everyone who watched the episode, or if you will watch it in the future, you will recognize that actor right away because it was, I don't know his name, I don't know how to pronounce it, but he is best known for playing Mr. Sheffield in The Nanny, the TV show. Yeah. Do you remember his actor name, his real name?
Sean, or
something.
Maybe is Shaughnessy or something like that.
Yeah.
Was his last name, I think, but I can't remember his first name.
To me, he will always be Mr. Sheffield.
Yes.
And so I found that quite interesting that someone with a British accent was part of the Men of Letters. So my first thought was, ooh, are they introducing the London chapter now? But nah, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it turns out that he used to be a neurosurgeon, and as that, he worked for the Men of Letters, and he experimented on the minds of monsters to turn them into watchdogs. So the laboratory that was downstairs that has already been used by the gang is his original workplace. And when the Men of Letters vanished, he retired, and he says that he never stopped studying the Akrita because he was there the last time they attacked, and he knew that the Men of Letters managed to push them back. And after that, he just didn't keep tabs on them anymore, and he still wanted to study them because he knew that eventually they would come back. So meanwhile, in the motel, Roxy then goes through the whole process of this ritual of helping, Lata goes through the process of helping Roxy remember, and it works. So Roxy then gets into this kind of trance state, and she is kind of reliving what she experienced, giving them all the information. And after that whole thing, she then asks Lata not to remove her memories because she wants to have this as a kind of maybe like battle scar, you could call it, to know what happened and to know what she was a part of, accountability, you could say. Right. So she's doing that shadow work, and she instead tells them if there's any way that she can help them kick those asses, to call her. Like, she's ready to fight. She wants to get revenge in some sense, but also justice for what was done to her and what she had done to others. So she wants to set things right. And that whole thing, of course, gives Carlos also a change of heart, that he doesn't want to forget Anton, and he wants to remember because it was a good time and he did really care about him, still does. And maybe he'll try and make it work. We'll see. But for now, at least he chose not to forget. And in that whole process, what we also learned is that Lata is still in contact with Ada's son, the Jinn, and that they're meeting up in her dreams, and that he's actually been teaching Lata a few things of like how to do this ritual about remembering something or taking memories away. So what the Jinn naturally does with his ability, he's been teaching her a little bit of that to do with the help of magic. Okay, then at the clubhouse, Hobbs tells John and Mary that he has a way to produce a neurotoxin to kill the queen. But in order to do that, he needs those stingers that go in the back, and that when Mary was in her dream world, she found those under her younger self's pillow, and we never saw what happened to them. But he needs those stingers to actually like get the protein reworked with like some chemical process so that he can then produce that what will be poisonous for the queen. But we quickly find out that, and this was kind of like obvious, like he's not one of the good guys. Mm-hmm. His real reason for doing all of this is because he is taking a page out of the Akrita's playbook, and just like they possess a host who is then taken over and being controlled by the Akrita, but the original person is still in there. They can still witness everything, but that's as far as it goes. And so Dorothea, the woman who has been attacked at the very beginning of the episode, turns out that's his wife. Mm-hmm. And he has preserved her body all this time. The body has aged, but he managed to keep her alive on life support. And he now wants to put his mind into John's body and his mind into John's body and his wife's mind into Mary's body so that they can start over, have the life that they were robbed of when they were younger because his wife was taken out of the picture. And so he wants a chance at a do-over, and that's the way that he chose to do that, by basically being like the Akrita.
Mm-hmm.
So not fighting the queen, just using whatever she does. And of course, it doesn't work. Mary and John manage to overpower him, and in the end, he and his wife both end up dead. So, yeah, the episode ends with John going back to Millie's garage, and there Kyle, the reporter, is waiting for him. And he quickly lets John know that it's not just Kyle, that he is actually one of the Akrita,
Mm-hmm.
and that he already called the police and put in a distress call, like, help, I'm being killed by John Winchester. And then after telling him all of that, he actually kills himself, or he kills the Kyle meat suit, the person. And so, yeah, Kyle dies in John's arms. In that moment, Millie, of course, walks in. The police is already on their way. We hear the sirens. So now John has been framed for murder.
Mm-hmm.
So that the big champion that John was set up to be is now taken off the chessboard.
Yep.
So, and yeah, this was a very boring episode. What did you think?
I had a hard time getting through the whole stuff with the Mr. Hobbs. Even though I like Sheffield, I had a hard time getting through that because it was just predictable, and
The worst thing for me was when he revealed himself and he switched from his British English accent to, I don't know, was that supposed to be Texas or something? Like,
oh my goodness,
a Southerner?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
But like, I could hear, like, my language brain could hear that he was trying really hard to impersonate that accent. So it didn't really work.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that made him so much less attractive as a bad guy, because that British accent has some sophistication and all of that, and especially like saying that he's a neurosurgeon. They should have stuck with the British accent. I don't know why they had to turn him into some Texan. I really don't get it. It doesn't make sense, because people from Europe have moved to America all the time. So why would it be so far-fetched for someone who's in the Men of Letters to have been born overseas, moved to America? Right. I mean, he was married to an American woman, so why not? And especially since there is a London chapter, he could have gone from one to the other. And I mean, I don't like this change in character, the accent, doesn't make sense to me at all.
No.
It was useless, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, you drew some cards. What did you get?
The first one was the Queen of Pentagrams. Well, and I'm thinking like these are cards pertaining to probably who wrote it, and that is the that fallen angel and Niall or whatever, which was actually
it's Danielle. So it's Jensen's wife.
Yeah. Yep.
And what was the other card?
Donatello.
Donatello, yeah. So for me, like those two cards, and when you showed them to me, I was laughing, because Donatello at some point, even as a prophet, he didn't have a soul anymore, and that's what this episode felt like to me. It was soulless. And then to have Jensen's wife come up on the other card, and I know that she is very involved in the whole process, even though Jensen is always credited as the executive producer. But if you watch the two of them in interviews together, she will always put her 2 cents in. She will always give her opinion, and most of the time even start answering the questions first, and then she lets her husband finish. So, and I know that she was a big part of planning the whole thing, because Jensen does do this stuff with her together. They really are a team. But if you watch them in those interviews, you can tell that she is a major influence.
Mm-hmm.
And so if she's responsible for this whole thing to turn out this boring, then yeah, I guess it is what it is.
And
Yeah,
that's what those cards mean. It's not about the episode as much as it was the writers of the creation of it.
yeah. This episode, like the bits and pieces could have been put into any other episode. Like the whole Roxy thing, yeah, that was interesting, trying to retrieve the memories and finding out where the queen is. But the whole story with Hobbs, to me, was unnecessary. Like it didn't really tell us anything. We didn't learn anything new about the Men of Letters, only that, yeah, they did experiment on stuff, but we could have already predicted that based on how well equipped they are with everything.
Yeah.
And yeah. So this was, yeah, and also the whole, like what Dean said, how far are you willing to get it? That pertained to Mr. Sheffield, Hobbs. So yeah, he was willing to do anything for love.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this was in this episode with Mary or if this was somewhere else that I was watching, where they said that something like this is really selfish because he doesn't know if his wife would even agree to that. He's doing that because he wants that.
Yep.
And so this doesn't really have anything to do with love. It's more like, hey, I don't want to be alone, and I have this thing that I need to do for myself because I want this person with me. I'm not ready to let go. And so, yeah, what if when she would have woken up in someone else's body, what if she wouldn't have been happy? You know, he never even considered that. He never asked her. He just made that decision for her.
Yep.
And so, yeah. But, I mean, yeah, we have 3 episodes left now. And they really need to step up their game. So far, still no announcement on whether this show is canceled or not.
I know.
I don't know what the holdup is and why they don't announce that at all.
I don't either.
You want to shuffle the cards again and draw another card to see, will this series or will this TV show be canceled?
All right, let's ask them. Let's tell me. What does the future look like?
So will the Winchesters be canceled? Metatron. Oh my god, that's what this story needs. A good writer. Oh my god. So I guess with that, the cards are telling us, yeah, if they have a good writer, then maybe this thing can continue. But yeah, I think this really rests on the shoulders of the writers, because if you don't have good storylines, if you don't have any interesting things in there, if everything is just so boring that people are playing on their phones while watching.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
So maybe they're still shopping for a good writer. Maybe they haven't given up just yet. Maybe they're shopping for a good writer. Who knows?
Yeah, and you notice this was still on the bottom, so my shuffling must have not been that great. But he's got one of the tablets in his soul.
Yeah, so it doesn't have a soul.
Yeah, and
maybe that's also the problem, because they strayed away from canon and are trying to do something different with this, but maybe they should get back to the original material, because if they would have stuck with the established storyline and not throwing us off completely, I think the original Supernatural fans would have taken to this way better. I don't know how many of the original fans are still watching this after these 10 episodes, or how many of them have already given up. I'm still watching it because, yeah, I want to see what happens in the last episode. I'm just kind of curious, but it's not because, oh my God, this is such a gripping TV show.
Right.
I need to know what happens next. No.
That's what this
At
card
this
tells
point,
me. It's like not
yeah.
overly invested with what's going to happen.
Yeah.
He's not
So
anyway.
yeah, they should get Metatron to tell the story.
Oh
He
my.
was way better. I mean, he was the one editing for Chuck.
Yep.
So, because
Yep.
Chuck also, even though he couldn't really write. Like, yeah, he was doing the Sam and Dean fan fiction, but he was basically just writing down what happened.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
they were sitting in that diner, just Chuck and Metatron was editing his stuff. That was the stuff that Chuck had written about the future. And Metatron had a lot to say about it and found a lot of plot holes, and this doesn't make sense, this isn't well written. And so basically Metatron had to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So to get that, yeah.
So,
Something
yeah.
needs to give.
Yeah. I don't know. This I'm staying with my opinion that I'm not terribly sad if this gets canceled, and after episode 13 we will never hear about this again.
Yeah, let's
It's like what happened with the Winchesters stays with the Winchesters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I guess that's it for this episode. We're not going to drag this out any longer. So let's hope the next episode, which should be out tomorrow, will be a little bit better. And there's my cat. No, other way. What you doing? And yeah, bless you. Okay, so, well, thanks to everyone who's been watching. And yeah, let us know what you think of this show. Will it continue? Will it be canceled? What's your guess? And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.